Welcome back to Living Local. There's a new report that shows what could happen to our area if we don't take climate action. The 2024 climate assessment shows the QCA could be in for a warmer, wetter future. And here to talk more about this report is Nina Struss, River Health and Resiliency Organizer with Prairie Rivers Network. Nina, so great to see you again.
Yeah,
thanks for being here.
Great to be here.
Okay, so first off, tell us a little bit about your role with Prairie Rivers Network and what your organization does for our community.
Sure. So Prairie Rivers Network, we help to protect water and heal our land, inspire change, and so that shows up in a number of different ways, whether it is pushing for cleaner energy, protections against our water, and also to just really working with our communities, providing that advocacy component as it pertains to environmental issues. And so for myself here in the Quad Cities, I've been doing a lot within the community as it pertains to river health and kind of really looking at protecting things that help protect our rivers. So things like wetlands and floodplains, and then of course working on this assessment.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about this climate assessment and how often is this published?
So hopefully probably just once.
Okay.
I mean, this is where we're starting at least. However, we will be continuing to talk more about it and, take the data that we have from it and talk about it more into the future.
Okay.
But yes, so this was initiated in July of 2023, and so it's been a work in progress for the last several months and was just released in April.
Okay, and it's pretty thick.
It is. I know, it looks a little intimidating, right? It's about 70 some pages.
Okay.
But we do have a website which you'll reference that has a summary of it, a really good succinct summary. The executive summary at the beginning of it tells a really good, has a really good overview of it too. But there's a lot of really great graphs and data in here that really any person, you don't have to be in the field like we are, could just pick up and take a look at, and I would highly encourage that.
Okay, so let's talk about a little bit what's inside of this and why the Quad Cities was chosen.
Sure. So here in the Quad Cities, we are uniquely situated in the Midwest, where we're surrounded by a couple of different rivers that do increase that flood risk. And so with that, as we see that increase in climate risk too, we see those risks go up. And so that was one reason why the Quad Cities was taken a look at. And then also we have a number of individuals and organizations that are really working to help protect and increase the resiliency here in the Quad Cities of residents who are at risk of those. So that's really why we initiated this report.
Gotcha. And let's talk about some of the high priority climate risks that were identified in some of our communities.
Sure. So one thing that makes this report a little bit unique is that we did start with stakeholders, so community members, and we asked them, what do you see as the biggest threats as it pertains to climate change in the Quad Cities? Flooding was number one, both river flooding and flash flooding for sure, and then that was followed by extreme heat and the things that come along with that, so things like drought, wildfire risk, that was identified in several interviews, and then of course just the increase in severity and number of extreme weather events too.
Yeah, I think we're more familiar with the flooding around here, right?
Yes.
So those were some of the key findings, would you say?
Yeah. So when we look at the key findings, so we worked with a couple of different partners, worked with the National Wildlife Federation and then the Discovery Partners Institute with the University of Illinois, did some really interesting models in here, and which I would highly encourage people to take a look at, that takes a look at what does our flood risk look like here in the region through the end of the century. And you can see the progression as it changes from early to mid and end of century too. So there are areas that maybe haven't experienced flooding before, or not severe flooding, like Vibrant Arena at the Mark, Isle Casino Hotel Bettendorf, portions of Rock Island Arsenal, even areas in downtown Rock Island like the Martin Luther King Center could potentially see flood risks, not necessarily from river flooding, but from flash flooding too. Also the extreme heat. So right now the Quad Cities experiences about 3 days of extreme heat, so that's over 95 degrees per year. By the end of the century, we could be up to close to 2 months
Oh my gosh.
Of heat above 95 degrees. So if you think about how much that takes away of our summer.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. So what would you say would be some of the solutions and how we can support some of these solutions?
Yes, we don't want just a doom and gloom report. That's not what this is. So it is pretty big, right? So we've got that data. But the second part of this really focuses on nature-based solutions. Those are going to be solutions that things like wetlands, forests that are already in nature and very protective active within our floodplains to help with that flood risk and heat risk, but also to things like rain gardens or pavements that help to soak in that extra water. So we have ideas for that, as well as ideas that came from community members. And then also we have models that show what that risk looks like before and after implementation. So we can really see, especially when we're talking about flooding, that flood risk goes significantly down if we look at more natural, nature-based options.
Okay, just have a couple of seconds. They're giving me the
Got
wrap.
it.
So how can communities get involved?
Reach out to me.
Okay.
We want to be having more discussions about this, especially as you're looking at the models and see that your communities or businesses might be at risk. We want to foster those conversations and help find potential projects and funding.
For sure. All right. Well, Nina, it's so great to have you back on and nice to talk to you about this.
Yes,
thank you for coming.
thanks.
All right. For more information on the climate assessment, go to nwf.org/Quad Cities Assessment. We'll also have all those details posted on our quadcities.com.